Sunshines! Today's video is going to be another book review. The book I'm here to talk to you about today is Salt to the Sea by Ruta Sepetys. So first of all, I just want to put the disclaimer out there that I was invited to do this review by Penguin Teen, and by doing so, I will be entered into a giveaway. However, all the thoughts and opinions that I have that you'll see in this video are 100% honest and my own. This book review is going to be completely spoiler-free, and I'm going to try to keep it as brief as possible. When I first was given the opportunity to review this book, I was really excited, even though I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't actually know very much about it. And I've never read any of Ruta Sepetys' other books. And after reading this book, I am definitely going to be going out and picking up her other books. So Salt to the Sea is set in the winter of 1945, so towards the end of World War II. We follow four teenagers who all have four secrets, and because of the war and the area that they're in, they are drawn together and somehow become traveling misfits together. I'm going to link a video down below that is actually Ruta herself discussing some of the history behind this book, because as she says in the epilogue at the end of the book and kind of the author's note, she spent so many years researching this book. So the setting for our book is winter in 1945, toward the end of World War II in East Prussia. The four teenagers that this book follows is Joanna, who's a Lithuanian nurse, Amelia, who is a young Polish girl, Florian, who is an East Prussian, and a young sailor whose name is Alfred. Out of the four, the main three that we follow are Joanna, Amelia, and Florian, and they are on a desperate trek toward promised freedom aboard the Wilhelm Gustloff. Ruta's video goes into much more detail about sort of the history of the time, but at the time that we enter these characters' lives, they're sort of on a mad evacuation dash, because up until this point, Germany has been holding the civilians of East Prussia from evacuating from the Russians, and all of a sudden, as we're entering this book and picking up, they're allowed to evacuate, and that's where we kind of pick up. One of the booktubers' reviews that I watched before I sat down to film my own was Riley Marie's. She said something in her review about how the way that the book started was how she knew that she was going to love this book, and I have to agree with her. The way that the book is kind of split up is into little, I wouldn't call them chapters, but since there are 4 points of view, what we end up doing is switching back and forth between the characters in the matter of 1 to 3 pages. So Joanna has a page, you'll see Florian has a page, we jump to Amelia next, and then Alfred. And it kind of goes like that throughout the entire book. And in this particular instance, I absolutely loved it, and I was completely captivated. But this is how it starts out. It starts out with, so each character has a point of view, and it says, guilt is a hunter, fate is a hunter, shame is a hunter, fear is a hunter. And it's so intriguing because going into it, you have no idea what this means. You don't have any idea what their secrets are. You don't know where they're coming from in their walks of life. And something that Ruta does so tremendously beautifully is she weaves these subtleties in and out of the chapters as she builds her story. And these little tiny moments, these little tiny, almost seemingly insignificant statements and moments and phrases come back around later in the story in really impactful ways. As far as the points of view, she took different approaches to the points of view during different situations. So in some situations, what would happen is each character might have been experiencing the same moment or the same experience, but we get to read that experience from 4 different points of view. That was one kind of approach that Ruta took. But another approach that she took was we would start the experience with one character, and as Riley said, it was kind of a game of tag where we would start with one of them, and then they would pass that experience to the next one, and pass that experience to the next one, and then pass that experience to the next one, so we got to see the experience unfold and kind of build from different points of view. And then there were other times when it was entirely the character's own unique point of view that we got to see, and I thought that approach to the different perspectives was very unique and so well done. This book was so well written, and like I said before, Ruta actually put years of research into this book, and when you watch her talking about the history that is behind this book, it's an amazing, beautiful thing. It's shocking to me that I had never really heard about this ship before, the Wilhelm Gustloff. And the crazy thing about this book is that even though it is a work of fiction, these events actually happened. This event actually happened. And it's a horrible, awful, unimaginable piece of history that Ruta wrote about so beautifully. Once I got to a certain point in the book, I couldn't put it down, and I finished it one morning. I actually put aside all my chores and I put aside everything that I was supposed to do that day because I wanted to finish this book so badly, and I cried. I haven't cried during a book in quite a while. I didn't actually even cry when I read All the Light We Cannot See. I came really close when I read All the Light We Cannot See, but I was so invested in the characters that Ruta created for us. And I say characters, but these characters that Ruta created felt like real people. And that takes something really special for an author to be able to do that. As the book is finishing and I'm moving into the author's note, it just hit me. It hit me so hard that this was an actual event that actually happened in history. And these characters, while they were characters in this historical fiction that she wove for us so beautifully, they could have been real people. And I was just completely overcome with that thought. I really don't know how else to describe it other than this book did reach out and touch my soul. And honestly, aside from all of the sadness and the hurt and the pain and the suffering and all of those horrible things that this book talks about, because it's talking about the honest truth of the way the world was during that war, that horrible, horrible war. And not to say that every war isn't horrible. Every war is horrible and awful, but all of those things aside, I loved that Ruta took us on this journey with these characters and painted this picture for us, and we were right there with them. And then at the end, there's a small glimmer of hope and humanity and love. And there's love throughout the whole thing. There's love amongst this random band of misfits, and there's love at the end of the story too. And I loved that. Honestly, I truly believe this book deserves the 5 out of 5 stars that I gave it on Goodreads. I don't really have too much else to say about this book because I don't want to go into too much more detail and spoil a bunch of things for you guys. But if you haven't read it, read it. And this book reminded me of something that I absolutely love about books in general and reading in general, which is the ability of a book and a story to connect us across race, nationality, language, country, time, all of these barriers that we have in our world, and books are just able to unite us amongst all of those things. So that's my review. I loved it. I completely loved it. This might sound crazy because we're so early in 2016, but I'm very confident that Salt to the Sea is a contender against All the Light We Cannot See as far as my favorite book of this year. But this is definitely, without a doubt, hands down, no questions asked, going to be my favorite book of February. There you have it. That's my review of Salt to the Sea by Ruta Sepetys. If you haven't read it, read it. I really can't wait to hear what your thoughts are. Please leave them in the comments down below, and I will see you in my next video. Bye! The Glittering Court by Richelle Mead. I am so excited to read this book. The cover is beautiful, even the process of moisturizing your lips, and each one does different